Welcome back to our channel. The year was 1974, and across the United States, the tremors of a shifting economy were impossible to ignore. Gas lines snaked around city blocks, inflation crept into households, and whispers of reform rattled the institutions that once seemed untouchable. Amidst this climate of uncertainty, the U.S. Mint continued its work, methodically striking coins that would pass anonymously through millions of hands. The quarter dollar, a cornerstone of American commerce, bore the familiar face of George Washington on its obverse, steadfast and immutable. But within that very familiarity, something unexpected was about to take shape. In Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the press's word with precision. The 1974 quarters were part of a large mintage. Hundreds of millions rolled off the dies, clad in their standard copper-nickel composition. Silver had long been phased out of circulation strikes, and these newer quarters carried neither the glint nor the heft of their predecessors. Still, they were necessary, practical, utterly unremarkable by most accounts. And yet, hidden among them, something anomalous was forged. A mistake, perhaps. Or maybe something more. The error didn't call attention to itself. It didn't scream from the face of the coin with glaring distortions or grotesque flaws. No, it lived in subtleties, oddities so refined, they slipped past countless eyes, and slipped into circulation like whispers in a storm. These weren't the kinds of mistakes a machine made loudly. They were soft-spoken, calculated almost, like a secret meant only for the most attentive to notice. Miles away, and years later, a man named Leon Barrett sifted through a dusty coin jar in the corner of his grandfather's study. Leon wasn't a seasoned collector, not then. He'd inherited the habit as much as the jar itself, and his interest was casual, born of rainy weekends and long stories about rare finds. But as he turned over the quarters, lining them side by side on the old desk, one caught his eye. There was something off. Not glaringly wrong, but subtly unnatural. The coin was lighter than it should have been. Not in color, but in weight barely perceptible unless you'd handled thousands. Leon examined it more closely. The edge, usually showing the familiar copper sandwiching of clad coinage, was strange. The copper band was faint, nearly absent. He rubbed it gently, puzzled. Under better light, he noticed the surface had a muted shine, more luster than he expected from a coin so old and so apparently circulated. And then the real detail struck him. The strike was unusually strong, with sharp features and details that seemed almost too crisp for a coin from the 70s. He didn't know what he had. Not yet. He didn't dare call it rare or valuable. But he kept it, set it aside. He weighed it against other 1974 quarters and found the difference consistent. This one was missing something, or perhaps it contained something it shouldn't. It was enough to make him dig deeper. Leon began reading. Minting errors, composition mistakes, transitional anomalies, whole worlds opened up before him. And one term kept surfacing, haunting him with possibility: wrong planchet error. A coin struck on a planchet meant for another denomination or metal type. Could it be? His fingers trembled when he weighed it again, this time on a digital scale. It was closer to the weight of a silver coin, not a standard clad quarter. That alone wasn't conclusive. But combined with the missing copper edge and that strange, radiant sheen, he submitted the coin to an authentication service. The weeks that followed felt endless. When the envelope returned, stamped with the grading company's insignia, Leon hesitated before opening it. He had prepared himself for a polite dismissal. But instead, he found a certificate. Confirmed. 1974 quarter struck on a 40% silver planchet, an anomaly considered virtually impossible by then. The last time quarters were struck with any silver content was for special collector issues, and those had ceased years before. Somehow, a leftover silver-clad planchet from an earlier production cycle had made its way back onto the press line. Maybe it was an overlooked blank, or perhaps the result of a storage error. Whatever the cause, It had collided with a 1974 die to produce something spectacularly rare. As Leon's story spread in collector circles, interest surged. Forums buzzed, and others began to dig through their stashes. Could there be more? And indeed, another surfaced, this time in Oregon, discovered by a retired postal worker sorting his coin rolls for fun. The same muted shine, the same absence of copper on the edge. Another 1974 quarter, with a weight closer to silver than clad. Authentication confirmed it again. A second specimen. Suddenly, the market began whispering about the 1974 silver era quarter. Prices jumped from pocket change to four figures within months. At a regional coin show, a dealer showcased one behind glass, and the bidding frenzy shocked everyone in the room. By the end of the night, it sold for $8,750, a staggering leap for a coin only recently plucked from obscurity. But it wasn't just the silver composition that stirred excitement. With each confirmed example, more peculiarities emerged. Some had minor die clashes, others showed incomplete rims or faint doubling in the date. The irregularities varied, hinting at a chaotic or hurried minting process. Then, a third coin appeared, and it was different. Visibly struck on a thinner planchet, the quarter showed a strange golden hue beneath the surface nickel. This wasn't silver. It wasn't clad. And once analyzed, the answer shocked even the most seasoned experts. The planchet had been intended for a foreign coin. Between 1973 and 1974, the U.S. Mint had contract obligations with several countries, producing coins for various nations while maintaining domestic output. Somewhere in that overlap, a foreign planchet meant perhaps for a Latin American peso or a Caribbean denomination had found its way into the quarter production line. It shouldn't have happened. It couldn't have happened. But there it was, unmistakable under X-ray fluorescence. The metal composition confirmed the anomaly. The narrative deepened. The 1974 quarter errors weren't just one kind of mistake, they were a cluster of strange occurrences, each bound by a common year and an uncommon fate. Collectors began referring to them collectively as the Ghost Run, a phantom subset of quarters born in the shadows of transition and oversight. Prices spiked again. An authenticated foreign planchet 1974 quarter fetched $19,000 at a private auction. Silver strike errors continued to climb, each commanding more attention and sparking fierce competition. And then came the twist no one expected. At a small coin show in Nebraska, a collector named Dana Vickers unveiled a 1974 quarter that didn't just show composition errors. It was missing part of the obverse design entirely. Washington's profile was shifted, distorted, and incomplete. But it wasn't a strike-through or simple die wear. Forensic analysis revealed that the coin had been struck from a misaligned die, so drastically misaligned that nearly 15% of the design had failed to transfer. What made it even more baffling was that the reverse was perfectly centered. The die had jumped or slipped mid-process. Or more mysteriously, a secondary strike had occurred without proper reset. The rarity of this kind of duality, off-center on one side, centered on the other, was almost unheard of in modern coinage. It was pristine, sharp, and verified. And when the bidding opened later that year, it crossed $26,000 before the hammer fell. The fascination wasn't just about money. It was about anomaly. It was about what these coins represented. A window into the controlled chaos of the mint. A whisper from a machine that should have obeyed every rule. The 1974 era quarters stood as quiet defiance against uniformity, tiny rebels that slipped through the cracks of perfection. Leon, now regarded as the unwitting godfather of the discovery, kept the first silver planchet coin. Offers poured in, some exceeding 6 figures, but he refused. It wasn't about the price. It was about the story. The coincidence of time and place. The luck of noticing what so many had missed. To this day, the full number of error-strike 1974 quarters remains unknown. New discoveries are rare, but not impossible. Collectors, armed with scales and magnifiers, still check their old rolls and family jars. They look for missing copper, unusual tones, strange strikes. They chase the story that started with a single coin and blossomed into legend. No one at the mint ever confirmed how the silver and foreign planchets got into the presses. The records are vague. The timeline's murky. Perhaps it was an honest mistake, buried in the bureaucratic shuffle of contracts and quotas. Or maybe, just maybe, it was something more deliberate. A quiet nod from a mint worker who knew what they were doing, who wanted to leave behind a trace, a puzzle, a challenge. And the coin itself, smooth, cool, unassuming, remains a testament to what happens when order bends, ever so slightly, and something truly remarkable slips into the world. The year was 1990. The United States Mint was busy producing quarters that would continue the proud tradition of American coinage. These small discs of metal carried more than just monetary value. They held stories, symbols, and history imprinted in their copper-nickel surfaces. That year, the $quarter bore the familiar profile of George Washington, his stoic gaze forever etched by John Flanagan design. It was a time of steady change for the country, a nation poised on the edge of a new decade, moving forward yet mindful of the past. The mint was cranking out millions of these coins daily, destined for pockets, parking meters, and countless vending machines. Among the countless standard coins, however, an unusual anomaly was quietly being struck. Hidden in the hum of production, a subtle error was born, one that would puzzle and captivate collectors decades later. It wasn't flashy or dramatic at first glance, but it was enough to set certain coins apart, a minute detail out of place, a misstep in the dance of machinery and metal that is minting. The conditions in the mint were ripe for such an error: high-speed presses, the pressure of deadlines, and the occasional oversight. These 1990 quarters were struck at either the Philadelphia or Denver Mint, both equipped with state-of-the-art technology for the era, yet no system is perfect. The error, some say, was caused by a misalignment between the die and the planchet, the blank metal disc that becomes a coin. This resulted in a slight doubling of the date and lettering, a phenomenon known among numismatists as a double die error. But unlike the glaring, bold doubling seen in famous examples from other years, the 1990 error was a subtle whisper, a ghostly echo on the coin's surface that could easily be overlooked by the untrained eye. For years, these quietly flawed coins passed unnoticed, jostling alongside their flawless counterparts in pockets and cash registers. But then, as it often happens in the world of coin collecting, curiosity and chance collided. Let's call him Mike was rummaging through a fresh roll of quarters one lazy afternoon. Mike wasn't a casual hobbyist. His eyes were trained by years of experience, his fingers conditioned to feel for imperfections and anomalies. Coins spoke to him not with words, but with texture and sight. That day, among the shine of new quarters, he noticed something peculiar. The date on one coin looked off. Not dramatically so, but enough to stop him mid-count. He pulled the quarter closer, examined it under his small magnifier. There it was, a faint doubling on the numerals. 1-9-9-0. That shouldn't be there. His pulse quickened. Mike knew instantly this was not just wear or damage, it was a minting error. A rare find. But what exactly was it? How rare? What might it be worth? As he dug deeper into his reference books and scoured forums, the picture began to emerge. The 1990 quarter error was not well documented. Unlike more famous double die errors, it hadn't been officially acknowledged by the mint or widely publicized. The few examples that collectors had unearthed were whispered about in niche circles. Mike was holding something that straddled the line between obscurity and significance. He started searching through his own collection, then those of fellow enthusiasts, piecing together the story of this coin. Every example was slightly different. Some showed more pronounced doubling on the date, others on the lettering around the rim. But all shared a common thread, an unexpected flaw that made them stand out among the millions. Word began to spread in the collector community. Auctions started to feature these coins, initially fetching modest sums, mere multiples of face value. At first, the market treated them like curiosities, interesting but not yet commanding serious money. Yet, collectors who recognized their rarity held onto them, sparking a slow-burning intrigue. Over time, as more information surfaced, the value of these coins began to shift. The 1990 quarter era transformed from an overlooked oddity into a sought-after collectible. Those subtle double dies became prized for their elusive nature, a secret whispered among collectors, a puzzle to be solved. Prices climbed steadily. What had once been worth $1 or $2 now commanded tens, then hundreds. Stories circulated of lucky finds in pocket change, rolls, and even forgotten coin jars. Enthusiasts shared tales of discovery, trading their flawed quarters as prize trophies. The rise wasn't without its drama. Some coins were questioned, their authenticity scrutinized under harsh light and magnification. Forgers tried to mimic the error, injecting doubt and suspicion into the market. But genuine examples always revealed themselves through microscopic details, die markers, and the subtle artistry of error minting. What made the 1990 quarter error especially fascinating was its quiet subtlety. Unlike loud, obvious errors that scream for attention, this one whispered its story only to those who looked close enough. It was a treasure hidden in plain sight, waiting for the discerning eye. Physically, the doubling wasn't confined solely to the date. Around the coin's rim, letters in the word, liberty, and even the "In God We Trust" motto exhibited faint echoes, faint shadows cast by an imperfect die. The spacing shifted just enough to create a sense of motion, a fleeting dance of numbers and letters. To the untrained eye, it seemed like normal wear or a reflection of light. But under magnification, the doubling was undeniable, a mark of imperfection in a world of precision. Yet, the twist in this tale emerged years later, when a collector noticed a variant within the variant. Among the double die 1990 quarters, some showed a curious additional anomaly, a die crack running faintly across Washington's cheek, a crack so subtle it was easily missed. This unexpected addition created a micro-subtype within the already rare error coins. This secondary error wasn't just a cosmetic feature, it added a whole new layer to the coin's rarity and appeal. Collectors began to hunt for these double error quarters, driving prices even higher. Suddenly, a coin once dismissed as a minor oddity became a dual rarity, a rare error within a rare error. The discovery of the die-cracked variant sparked heated debates and intense searching. Experts studied the minting processes of 1990, attempting to trace the crack's origin. Some speculated the dies were wearing prematurely, others pointed to a momentary flaw in the press. Whatever the cause, the result was a coin unlike any other, a tiny piece of mint history frozen in metal. As the market for these coins evolved, the 1990 quarter error became a symbol of the unpredictable nature of coin collecting. It reminded collectors that behind every coin lies a story, sometimes one of flawless craftsmanship, sometimes one of unexpected flaw. This evolution in value wasn't linear. The coins experienced peaks and valleys, reflecting broader market trends, collector interest, and discovery rates. In the late 1990s, the error was largely unknown, trading for pennies above face value. By the mid-2000s, after passionate collectors brought attention to it, prices surged into the low hundreds. The die crack variant, a few years later, propelled some coins beyond $1,000 in private sales and auctions. But the story didn't end there. A surprising turn came when a batch of 1990 quarters with the error was found still sealed in original mint rolls, untouched and pristine. These rolls, preserved in vaults or forgotten collections, held dozens of the error coins, some with a die crack, some without. Their discovery flooded the market temporarily, tempering prices, but also confirming the coin's legitimacy and rarity. Today, the 1990 quarter error occupies a special place in numismatic lore, not for grandeur or flashy design, but for its quiet defiance of perfection. It challenges collectors to look closer, to seek stories beneath the surface, and to appreciate the beauty of imperfection. For Mike and countless others, who first stumbled upon these coins, the journey was one of discovery, patience, and wonder. What started as a small curiosity became a lifelong fascination, proving that even the smallest misstep in minting can create a legacy far beyond face value. The 1990 quarter error is a testament to the human element behind the coins we often take for granted, reminders that behind every piece of metal is a story waiting to be told, a secret waiting to be uncovered, and a treasure waiting to be found. In 2022, the United States Mint continued its long-standing tradition of producing quarters that carried the weight of history, culture, and craftsmanship. Each year, the Mint releases designs that reflect the nation's diverse heritage, landmarks, and stories. But these coins also carry the silent pulse of precision engineering, machinery churning out millions of pieces with exacting detail. The 2022 quarter was no exception, a gleaming tribute struck in copper-nickel clad, bearing the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse, while the reverse showcased one of the striking designs from the America the Beautiful series. The production process, orchestrated with high-speed presses and complex dies, was designed to be flawless. But as is often the case when thousands of tons of metal are shaped into coins, tiny imperfections sometimes slip through, quietly transforming the mundane into something extraordinary. This year, amid the hundreds of millions of quarters pressed, a handful emerged with a subtle yet remarkable anomaly, a minting error that would later ripple through the numismatic community with growing intrigue. It was not the type of error that shattered the coin's design or left an obvious flaw. Instead, it was more like a whispered secret etched in metal, a near-invisible imperfection that made a few 2022 quarters stand apart. The conditions that gave rise to this error were rooted in the complex dance between the die and the planchet, a relationship that demands perfect alignment and timing. But somewhere along the production line, a slight misalignment occurred, causing a rare and fascinating doubling effect on specific elements of the coin. At first, these error coins were indistinguishable from their flawless siblings, slipping into circulation unnoticed. They spent time in wallets, vending machines, and coin jars ordinary in every sense, but for that hidden imperfection. It was only when a collector named Sarah began her routine coin sorting that the story of this error began to unfold. Sarah was a dedicated numismatist with years of experience scanning through coin rolls and change, always alert for the unexpected. On a quiet afternoon, as sunlight filtered softly through her window, she sat at her desk, sorting a fresh batch of quarters from a recent bank withdrawal. As her fingers flipped over each coin, one quarter caught her eye. The date and some lettering looked subtly off, like a faint shadow doubling the numbers. Curious, Sarah reached for her loupe, a small magnifying glass she relied on to inspect coins closely. What she saw made her heart skip a beat, a faint but unmistakable doubling on the 2022 date and the word Liberty. This was no ordinary wear or dirt. This was a double die error, an anomaly where the die itself was misaligned during the engraving process, creating a duplicated image on the coin. Sarah's excitement grew as she pulled out more quarters from the roll, searching for others with the same anomaly. She found a few more, each exhibiting the faint doubling to varying degrees. But this was rare, very rare. There was no widespread acknowledgement of this error by the Mint, no announcements or alerts. It was a whisper among collectors, an enigma waiting to be pieced together. Driven by curiosity, Sarah dove into research, scanning forums, auction sites, and numismatic databases. She discovered a handful of other collectors who had noticed similar coins, though none had seen many examples. It became clear that these 2022 quarters were part of a very limited error batch coins that had escaped the Mint's quality control unnoticed. The subtlety of the doubling made it easy to miss, but to those who knew what to look for, it was a tantalizing find. Sarah's discovery sparked a wave of renewed interest among collectors. Some began hunting rolls and bags of quarters with renewed vigor, hoping to uncover more of these elusive error coins. Early on, the market treated them as curiosities, interesting, but not yet commanding high prices. Many coins change hands for just a few dollars above face value, appreciated more for their novelty than for monetary gain. But collectors recognized the potential. The error was not just rare, it was distinctive, a testament to the fascinating complexities of coin production. As word spread, the value of these error coins started to climb. The scarcity combined with the mystique of a newly uncovered anomaly drove a steady increase in demand. At coin shows and online auctions, bids rose incrementally. What was once a curiosity became a prized collectible. Sarah, who had held on to her finds, watched with growing anticipation as prices shifted. She remembered the first time she held a coin under her loupe. The quiet thrill of discovery now echoed in the growing appreciation for these quarters. Yet, the story deepened further with a surprising revelation. Within the batch of double-die quarters, a rare subset emerged coins that exhibited not only the doubling but also a striking die gouge. This additional error was an unintended scratch or gouge in the die itself, which left a raised line cutting through the design in an unusual place across Washington's cheek, faint yet unmistakable. This die gouge variant was a twist no one had anticipated, elevating the already rare double die error to an even more coveted status. Collectors eagerly sought this double error coin, recognizing it as a dual rarity, a misalignment paired with a die defect, a unique signature left by the machinery. This unexpected twist added layers of intrigue and value. The physical characteristics of the doubling were subtle shadows behind the date and lettering, while the gouge was a thin, raised streak that caught the light at just the right angle. Prices for the double error quarters escalated rapidly, sometimes fetching several times the value of the basic double die version. The market was abuzz with speculation, debate, and stories of lucky finds. Some collectors believe the die gouge variant was even scarcer than initially thought, driving a competitive hunt to track down every known example. The mint's silence on the matter only fueled the mystery, leading enthusiasts to unravel the tale themselves. The value evolution was marked by unpredictability. Early on, the error coins were undervalued, overlooked by mainstream collectors who favored flashier or historically significant errors. But as awareness grew, demand outpaced supply, creating a roller coaster of prices. At moments, prices surged dramatically during auctions or when new examples appeared, only to settle as more coins surfaced from forgotten collections or sealed rolls. Yet the presence of the die gouge variant maintained a baseline premium, anchoring the error coin status as sought-after collectibles. Sarah's journey mirrored this evolution. She went from quietly thrilled to cautiously optimistic, and finally to an active participant in the collector market. Every new find added pieces to the puzzle. Every sale or purchase carried the thrill of discovery and the hope of uncovering yet another hidden treasure. The coin story was no longer just about a minor minting mistake. It was about human passion, perseverance, and the enduring allure of the unexpected. The 2022 $quarter error stands as a testament to the intricate, sometimes fragile process of coin production. It reveals how even in the most controlled environments, small deviations can create lasting ripples. This coin reminds collectors that behind the familiar faces and symbols lie moments of imperfection, moments that transform common metal into something extraordinary. Each double die quarter tells a story of machines and humans, of precision and chance. And within that story, the rare die gouge variant adds an unexpected chapter, one that continues to captivate, challenge, and inspire. The 2022 quarter error is not just a coin. It's a living piece of history, a whispered secret that rewards those who look closely, who seek beyond the surface, and who appreciate the subtle beauty of flaw.